Short note, at least I think it's going to be short. Economics is optimizing in situations of constraint. That's the very essence of being here. Instead of our infinite selves, in the sense of the astonishing reality of personhood beyond what we think of it in the physical, it's curbed here by our myopic concern for the physical, that which relates to the five senses. We are constrained, you see, and we're trying to optimize with some purpose, some not too well conceived, but what makes us happy. Gives us pleasure instead of pain, avoids thereby injury and death, in large measure for a good number of years, in general. Well, that's the subject of economics, except that economics is typically much narrower in its concern. And in a sense, that's where I started. My concern was, of course, resources. A world of poverty needs more resources, and that was the presenting problem as I saw it. I realized after a while that the resources are there, just the allocation is rather strange. It's not optimizing. Why is that? Is this an economic failure in the system? Automatic economic systems and so on, and planned ones? And then it became a sort of political type issue, and then one realized, well, what makes the politics work? It's something to do with the culture, and it's all interrelated, and so you go to sociology, and then you realize, well, sociology is aggregating, but we're really talking about individuals, and we really need to understand psychology, and from there to what we might think of as ethics, and how we relate and why and what our motives are and so forth. It is this constraint of not knowing that we have here, for we are preoccupied, as I say, with the five senses and the pursuit of happiness as we conceive of it and so forth, and avoidance of pain. And a great obsession with staying alive. We wouldn't stay here otherwise. And a great, as I've said in the previous recording, a great preoccupation, therefore, with a prioritizing of self to stay alive, for we can't achieve anything that we narrowly purpose without being here. Being dead's not the answer as we see it. And so with this constraint of visualization and understanding, to say the least, we are presented with everything being uncertain. Am I dreaming? Is this true? Are things as they appear? And what's the truth of the matter? It's a great concern to us. Uncertainty seems to plague everything. So we find strategies to cope with uncertainty. One is to avoid it like the plague. But then we find we take so few risks that that doesn't seem to be the best thing to do. So we try to optimize, and we take, if you like, quite conservative risks. We've tried a few extravagant risks, but they look hazardous. Our friends have died doing that. I don't think I'll do that. Well, it's through this decision-making in uncertainty, of course, that I realized something of the matter, I thought, some insight, being a specialist in this field. The obvious, first of all, that every decision is uncertain here. And how could we handle it? Well, religion has, strangely enough, been preoccupied with trusting. And indeed, if you don't trust your friends and your partner and so on, the relationship falls apart, doesn't it? If you act according to mistrusting them, well, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it? You find you're right because they don't feel loved and cared for. So we find that belief, trusting in our relationships around us, is the way forward. But of course you can't always do this, because sometimes you find people are malevolent and your trust would be misplaced. So we start to conjure up in our understanding an idea of the perfect, which is where we can trust and build accordingly. You see, if you don't trust in the future, you won't invest. If you don't invest, well, civilization comes to at least a poverty and at most complete annihilation. So we have the first commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind and strength. Well, you can only do that if you're going to trust him. And it's been obvious, even to me as a secular person, that belief, trust was something, the essence of these crazy people who are religious. I mean, they do choose to have a belief, and from the secular point of view, an unfounded, unwarranted trust. But taste and see. You might just find it's far more valid than you thought. Greatly warranted by the consequences. Let me review a minute. Yep, I think that's all I wanted to say. Make it short. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.